Good morning from Eastern Tennessee. Okay, so I've been watching Dan do his videos. And when we first started out, we basically learned how to train the horses off of videos. But the one thing that we found was that everybody already had trained horses. So it was hard to know what to expect. So we're kind of at a really good spot for everybody to learn from the beginning. We've got 2 horses that we've had almost a year, and they're both trained. They're not perfectly trained, but I don't know if a horse ever is completely trained. I mean, there's always another step that you could take them. But we've got our buck and Beatrice as proof that what we've done is successful. The one thing that we did find off of the videos that we watched was that consistency was key. Everybody does it a little bit different, but be consistent. And of course, there are personality traits to a horse that you can learn to help you. So, of course, there's the herd mentality, which we've incorporated in our training, and it's been instrumental, especially with our 2 new ones who on day 1 were walking with us because our other 2 were walking with us. And Beatrice is lead mare. She's a big fat jerk. But nonetheless, she is lead mare, so everybody follows her. Right, Buck? And then there's Penelope. Hi, Penelope. Of course, we've had our 2 new ones for about a month now. Again, she was facility born. She's 5 years old. I do think that she was hand reared by somebody because she is so completely tame. It's amazing. To find the tamest out of the lot that you're adopting from, go to the facility. Dan and I were one of probably 4 people that were actually at the facility when the online adoption began. And everybody, of course, wanted the prettiest, whereas I wanted one that fit my personality. And after having Beatrice, Miss Jerkface, I wanted a sweet horse. Actually, I wanted a gelding. But then Penelope, came right up to me, so she was it. Tag, she was it. And then over there, next to her, is Duke. He is our only wild-born Mustang. And he is very skittish, but he's a Pancake Mustang. So even though he's really skittish, he's calm in comparison to our first 2. Our first 2 were beaten up. Their tails and manes were eaten down to nubs. But even one of the ladies at the facility, one of the workers said, get a Pancake. If you can get a Pancake, get a Pancake, because for whatever reason, their temperament is much more gentle. And she's right. Even though he was wild born, right, buddy? He's still much easier to work with than our first 2. So step 1 for us is to get them addicted to grain. Now, most Mustangs, if not all, have not had any grain. We do a mix of grain and sweet feed. And at first, they'll be like, what is this? I don't eat this. I only eat hay. But, they'll sample it, and then they'll sample it more, and then they're addicted to it, which really helps with training. And then we give them treats, and that will really help with training. And so you use that as a tool. And so for him, which is going to be most of your Mustangs, Penelope, being sweet as she is, and possibly hand-reared, she's an anomaly. Don't expect to find another one in 100 years. But he's common. So we've gotten him used to the feed and the treats. And so what we do is, of course, we walk them often, so they follow us. We're ahead of Beatrice, who is our lead mare. And so she is inadvertently telling them that we are the leads to the herd. So he knows us as the leads to the herd. And you see him coming up to me now. He's coming up because he thinks I might have a treat. But it's been a month, and probably the second week they were used to the feed, they were used to the treats, and now they're really used to the feed and the treats, and that's what he's coming for. So we put him in a stall, and we put the bowl close to the outside of the stall. And as you've seen, every time they go to eat, or every time he goes to eat, I pet him. His mind, and this is a really good tool to use, his mind is elsewhere while I'm getting him used to me touching him. So his mind is, oop, let me get that food, where I go to touch him. And I just keep repeating and keep repeating and keep repeating until, as you see, he's okay with me touching him. He thinks I've got a treat. But I don't, right, buddy? Right? So for us, we want to get them to trust us. We want to develop a different kind of relationship. We've seen that, immediately they put them in a round pen. They will loop them to get them to understand that I'm lead. I tell your feet what to do. They already know that we're lead because when we walk them, we're telling their feet what to do. And it's done without aggression or force, although we are fixing to loop them. So it is important to still continue to do typical training, but your relationship with your horse is going to depend upon the training that you have with them. And we're just trying to build a relationship and a trust and a bond, because it's important for both of us. Case in point, when we were first training Beatrice and Buck, we were walking them around the property. She had her saddle and bridle on, and they were afraid of water. For whatever reason, they were afraid of water. So Buck went over this teeny tiny little stream. I mean, like 2 inches deep. He walked over it and through it. And she's trying to find a path around it. So she cuts off into the woods. And when she does, she snags her saddle. And when she snags her saddle, there goes her bridle, which had been hooked to the horn. This is a training lesson for us too, what not to do. And she gets one of her hooves hooked into it, and she's falling, and I am thinking, I'm gonna watch her break her leg. Oh my goodness. Thankfully, we had a treat with us. And she's falling, and she's panicking, and she's falling, and she's panicking. And I take the treat, and I get her mind. This is where they're like little toddlers. Like when a little toddler is crying, if you change their thought process, you can calm them down. They're exactly the same. So I take this treat, and I go to offer it to her, and she calms down just enough to take the treat and redirect her mind so that I can help her take her saddle off, take her bridle off, and she's good to go. She's freed. Well, that built trust for her to trust me immensely. Little did I know, because we're not horse trainers. I had horses when I was a teenager, and all I did was ride them. They were already trained. I didn't have really a relationship with them. I just had fun with them. But that episode really helped her trust me. So fast forward a couple months, and I'm in the field. I go to get on her. I've not tightened her saddle enough. I fall. Her saddle falls, and she immediately stops. Immediately. She knew, okay, this human's going to help me. She helped me before. She's going to help me again. And that goes back to the trust. So you have to build the trust both ways. You have to be able to trust them. So you have to give them a little bit of leeway, and try to not be too afraid to allow them to move, nuzzle. That's going to help you build trust with them. And conversely, when something does go wrong, or it's a new environment that they're not used to, a new move, a new training technique that they're not used to, they have to be able to trust you enough so that they're unafraid to try that, something new for them. Okay, with all that said, let's go loop these horses.